Yeah, the 131 Brigade, the other Queens, first 5, first 6 and first 7. Because I had some of my mates that left, when we was at Ipswich, some of our lads were called up into the first 5, first 6, first 7. And I think Joe Grubb, his name was, I think he went in the first 5th. Because we met up with them at one point we was having a rest, all of us were having a rest, the 131 and 169. And I went and found him. And at that time there was I selling watches. And there was a Corporal Sweatman, he borrowed some money off me to buy this watch. And when we were moving up once in vanguard of the battalion, 3 carriers, Culver was in the front one, I was in the second, and Schofield, these are the drivers I'm talking about, Schofield was in the third one. And we came off this artillery road and came onto a wider space with like houses, or farmhouses, I forget now. Yeah, I think there's farmhouses. Anyhow, we came off what they call in England unadopted road, just rough surface, earth and stone and potholes, well, shell holes and all, with water in them. And I was following Culver, and I was standing up in my carrier and keeping my tracks on the marks that he'd left in the soft ground. I thought, well, if he's going to hit mine, I should stop. But meantime, if I'm going to put my tracks on his track marks, I said, and follow that. So that if Jerry, because any road like that was suspicious, where there's potholes and water, even with water, they'd take put a mine in there, put the stones back on, and even fill it up with water, you know, to make everything look. So, and I was more or less always just thinking, all trying to put your brain in Jerry's brain and what he'd do. On a main road, smooth, no problem. But when you get to roads like that, it's very dodgy. So then, bang, behind me, and I was still standing up in the carrier, keep my foot so I could keep. And I looked back, and there's a big cloud of dust and God knows what. And the carrier disappeared, third carrier. And what had happened, he'd hit this mine, and the Corporal Sweatman, who'd borrowed the money for a watch, he was stood here, and he'd taken his pouches off, his hammer pouches, and stuck them in a bin along the side of him. And where the blast from the mine, it made the bottom of the carrier like a mushroom, blown off the tracks. But this side track, the right side, was still able to drive, but it could only go one way. It slewed into this farmyard. That's why I couldn't see it. It had just slewed in like that. The driver and was shook up. Crayford was the gunner. He got a bit of a splinter on his cheek, but they were badly shook, but not wounded. Corporal Sweatman, his pouches was hanging up on, I think it was probably electric. I don't think it was telephone. I think it was electric. It was too thick for hanging over this blinking wire, you know, with overhead cable. And there was Sweatman, where the ditch was bridged from the road to the track, leading into the farmyard. He was, his head and shoulders up here and his feet were down there. In this ditch, it had blown him right out the carrier, right up, he must have flown through the air, and he finished up in the ditch. So I ran back and I said to him, his shoes, the nails were showing from upper to sole. The blast had blown his shoe apart, and all his legs were black and blue. All internal bleeding was shattered, and of course his inside was too, because I could hear the old death rattle. And all he kept saying to me, he said, "Am I going to pay you this money for licking what? There's a bloke dying." I said, "Don't worry about that." I said, the stretcher bearers will be coming up in a minute. I said, "He died in the ambulance going back." But there's an instance there where you've got to have your wits about you. By me following that track of Culver's carrier, because when the bang went, he stopped. And of course, I stopped. And there was the one behind. If he'd followed my tracks, he'd have probably been all right. Then the engineers come up and cleared. They must have got about 12, about a dozen mines all scattered about there. Oh, we missed them, God knows. In fact, Culver had just straddled one when he stopped.